So, who would win a real fight between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee? I'm going to answer that for you in just a minute and tell you how that applies to preparedness. But first, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. It's good to have you. Grab something to whatever you drink in the morning. I'm drinking out of a new mug today. Some of you will say, well, that looks a lot like a mug you already drink out of, Steve. What are you talking about? And what this is, I've had a lot of, this is, kind of looks like the mug from our first annual gathering. But I've had a lot of people say, well, I really like the design of that mug, but I wasn't at the first gathering. So can you make one that looks kind of like it, but without the first annual gathering on it? So that's what this is. Actually, it is the same design of the gathering mug, and we'll have a different mug out for the second gathering that's coming up in October, but without the first annual gathering. Only those who came to the first gathering can have those. But kind of the plank holders, right? And so this is very much like it. It has, Stonemont, where life is good. What is it? I got to get my glasses on. In my office here, I keep the lights a little bit low. And down there, of course, it says Semper Paratus, always ready. On the back, it says, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Again, Semper Paratus. And this is the axes, Bible, and rifles. Those three things on which our country was founded, and Stonemont was founded as well. So these aren't quite ready for order yet because I'm not happy with the color of the gold. I'm going to have that adjusted and have another one printed up, and then I'll see, as soon as I give my okay on it, then I'll make it available for sale on the Stonemont website. So grab yourself, let me take a sip here, and I'm going to talk about something. Okay, so who would win in a real fight between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, and why does that have anything to do with preparedness? It has a lot to do with preparedness. Probably, I don't know that there's any question in the martial arts, not in the martial arts circles, not in the ones who knew these guys, but amongst other people who read it in magazines and stuff like that. There are these arguments that go round and round and round about who would win, and everybody's got their favorites, right? And so I'm going to answer that. In order to answer this properly and for you to understand where I'm coming from, and don't worry, it is an important preparedness lesson. So for those who just want to get in and after 2 minutes and leave, you're not going to know the lesson, but all the rest of you will. Now, I never knew Bruce Lee. I'll say that right up front. And I don't know Chuck Norris. I was at an event with him down in Dallas a long time ago, the Living Legends weekend. But I never crossed paths, never got a chance to meet him. I hear he's a great guy. I have a lot of good friends who are good friends of his, so I hear he's a great guy. And I also hear that he is a PMP, a preparedness-minded person, not just a prepper, but a PMP. So I hear that he's a great guy. But I do know people, a couple of friends of mine, one a very good friend of mine, who knew him well. One was Jim Harrison, who most of you probably never heard of, but he is a legend within the legends. You've never heard of him because he never made a movie, okay? And but he is the one that all the ones who did say he's the last one that ever want to tangle with in real life. I'll tell you a little bit more about him to give him a back. Well, do you see that thing right there? He gave that. He is a legend in the martial arts, and he was put in the I think that the first round of the Martial Arts Hall of Fame with both Norris and Lee. So he gave me that some years ago at an event, at an award ceremony, and he made me, I think, only the 5th associate to his system, to the Bushidokan system. I was never a student, and so I had my own system. And if you don't know, in the martial arts, when you want to honor somebody, and there were very few. I think he only gave 5. I might have been the last one that he gave it to. There could have been more, so I don't want to mislead anybody. I'm not sure if he did or not. But it's a way of honoring someone else in another system, saying we recognize and accept the quality of your system. Okay, so that's what that's all about. Now another one that was a little bit closer to Lee. Now Jim is the one who actually taught Lee to use not to use the nunchucks, but he taught him a lesson about using nunchucks against resistance. I'll get around to that story in just a second. Yes, it has everything to do with preparedness. Bob Wall is the other one, and man, I need to. What made me think about doing this? I'm starting to put up some pictures around my office here. I've never been one to put up pictures, and I ran across these, which made me want to do it. Now here's a picture, if you can see. Bob sent this to me. Bob is the guy that if you ever watched any of Bruce Lee's movies, matter of fact, Bob sent me another picture. We used to talk on the phone for hours, and Bob was, if you remember, if you ever seen any of Lee's movies, I only saw one, and this was it. He played a character called O'Hara, right? Well, and so he sent me this, and Bob was he was a partner of Lee in many things. As a matter of fact, Bob is the one that got Lee into to the Coliseum through a contact. I've told that story before, but that fight between Norris and Lee in the Coliseum. Well, Bob was the one who they weren't going to let Lee get in there, but Bob was the one who finessed them to be able to get in there. So Bob sent me that, but he was a partner with Lee in a lot of things, and also a partner with Norris, clear up until the day Bob died several years ago, and a lot of karate schools and a lot of other things out in California. Here's something else. So this is a famous story. I won't get into the story now, but a bunch of them calling out Steven Seagal when Seagal was trying to act like such a badass, and Bob Wall got some of the other guys together and said, because Seagal was saying, none of these guys will fight me. They're all afraid of me. And Bob says, oh, I don't think any of them are, and we'll each kick your ass anytime you'd like to. That's Bob in the middle. Going from this direction, let me see if I can see it backwards. That's Harrison right there. That's Jim Harrison. That's Alan Steen. That's Bill Wallace, Superfoot Wallace. Jackson there. I don't know him. And, oh gosh, what is his name? He's from Wichita. Real badass. What was his name? I don't know. It escapes me now, but he was, anyway. So that's kind of an introduction to the guys who have told me about their opinion on who would win between Norris and Lee in a real fight. They actually knew these guys. To give you, matter of fact, Harrison wrote a recommendation in my first book, The Reversion. So let me let you know what he wrote. And I'll tell you a funny story about Jim having introducing Lee to using nunchucks against resistance, and now we're getting down into preparedness. Okay, all right. So I'm going to read this first, or maybe first you might want to hear, since probably you never heard of Jim. I'll read some of his bio here. He wrote this in my first and second, and I think maybe the third. I think he passed before my fourth. I don't know, but he wrote this in. I'll read his bio here before I read what he wrote up there. And so he's called one of the most dangerous men alive by Bruce Lee. Jim Harrison is one of the true legends of the martial arts, combatives, and survivalism. Known for his notorious battles during the blood and guts era of American karate, he has been called the closest thing to a modern samurai the 20th century can produce. He was three-time U.S. karate champion, three-time All-American grand champion, undefeated U.S. light heavyweight kickboxing champion, and coached the undefeated U.S. professional team. He has trained U.S. Army Special Forces, Rangers, SEALs, Marines, Scout Sniper Recon, and members of the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, or Delta Force. He has provided personal security for Chuck Norris, Linda, Mrs. Bruce Lee, and Prince Mikhail Matthew something or other, I don't know. He was awarded a PhD in Research Analysis and Instruction by Udon University and was inducted into the International Karate Hall of Fame with Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee. He is the founder of Bushidokan, Ronin Jutsu, and Sakura Warrior Arts. So that now you know who Jim Harrison was. And here's something that Jim wrote in my first few books. He said, Stephen Craig Smith, because Craig is how all my friends knew me through all my years growing up, and it's how everybody who knows me, except through my books and videos, knows me, is Craig, is a masterful and eloquent storyteller. I was honored to read a proof copy of the reversion, book 1 of the Stonemont Series, a series which I am anxious to continue, and rarely have I so enjoyed a book. Craig has an exciting and accurate knowledge of survival skills, combat skills, and mindset, weapons, military and police tactics, and of the good, the bad, and the ugly of when things get down and dirty. He knows and writes about the real stuff, not the bull stuff. And here's something for those of you who haven't read my books yet. Only one problem. It kept me awake reading it, and I didn't get much sleep until I finished it. One is number 2 coming out. So that's now you know a little bit about him. So I've talked to both Jim and Bob about Norris and Lee. Now, before I tell you who would win and how what that has to do with preparedness, I'll tell you a funny story, and it is applicable about Bruce Lee and the nunchucks and Jim Harrison. Jim was watching Lee working out one day and you know, Lee was famous for his nunchuck work, right? Actually, Lee said that Jim's son Lance was the best he had ever seen with nunchucks. But back to Lee, so he's doing all of his stuff in the air and everything like that. And Jim says, "Well, that's okay. I mean, that's good. It looks good in the movies." He says, "But you know, how's it going to work against real resistance?" And of course, Lee, who had an ego, you know, I think everybody agrees with that. I'm not talking badly about him, but everybody knows he had an ego. And those who know tell me. And of course, Lee kind of, well, I could do this and I could do that. Jim says, well, go ahead. And they were in some gym. I don't remember if he told me where it was. A bunch of tie bags hanging there. And tie bags are long. I mean, they're, you know, as tall as a man is, very, very heavy. And he says, well, go ahead and do that and go against because Jim had never seen him actually hit anything with these. He was doing all this stuff in the air, right? So Jim said, well, you know, show me if you can hit that bag and see if you can move that bag with the nunchucks. So Lee, you know, he did it. Well, he went through his things like that, and then bam, you know, went out and I'm not a nunchuck guy. I never worked with him, so I don't know if there's a term for this, of a certain kind of strike that you use. And bam, he hit that bag. Bag didn't move very much, but it came back, Jim told me. It came back and hit Lee right smack dab in the middle of the forehead, damn near knocked him out. So there's a lesson right there, isn't there? And that is, no matter how much you think about it, and how much you airplay, when you meet resistance, things so often don't work out the way you thought they would or claimed they would, okay? That's the difference between practice and real. Now, is that the lesson? No, that's not the lesson. The lesson is this. The lesson is who would win a real fight between Norris and Lee. And the answer is, it doesn't matter. Steve, you just let us on for minutes, and then you built us up to tell us the real answer, and now you tell us it doesn't matter. That's right, it doesn't matter. Because what I see in preparedness, it reflects very much like what I've heard for years among people arguing about who would win in a real fight. And I have had, both Bob Wall and Jim Harrison told me who they thought would win. I'm not going to tell you what they said, because it doesn't matter, because it never happened, okay? It never happened. So it's just opinion, it's conjecture, but it reflects so much of what I've heard over the years in preparedness. And that is people who have read things, gotten things out of magazines, or watched videos, or talked to other preppers, and come out with these rock hard opinions of what would or would not happen based on nothing, because it hasn't happened. You see where I'm going with this? It hasn't happened. Now, some of those things are, or it has happened, but those people have not seen it for themselves. A perfect example is when I tell people the sub effectiveness of a 9mm round as opposed to larger rounds. I'll get all sorts of people coming on here, and I can tell by the way that they talk that they have never actually seen the results of the different rounds in human bodies. And I come on and I explain, hey, I get my information from working shootings on the street, from emergency rooms, and from autopsies in the morgue, and I see the difference between what happens from a 9mm and a 40 and a 45. And the 9mm is simply not as effective as the others. And I will get people come on, just like Bruce Lee aficionados will come on. And they'll come on and say, yeah, but you don't know what you're talking about. The 9mm is the most effective round. I even had somebody said the 22 is the most effective round. Because they've read it in a magazine, or they'll say, all the special ops people carry it, or the FBI says this, and well, these are people who are basing their opinion on wrong information that they have heard, but because they've heard it or read it, they believe it. Okay. Another one of those things are the golden hordes. You've heard me talk about that. I'm not a believer in the golden hordes, but those are just two of the more dramatic examples. There are many other examples in preparedness. And when people are consumed with information that they have heard or read as opposed to what they have done, they are taking themselves into dangerous territory. Okay? Just like Bruce Lee, who was phenomenal when it came to the chucks in the air, but all of a sudden, Jim told him, hit that tie bag and see if you can move it. See the destruction of the chuck on, the real effectiveness? And so Lee did, never done it before apparently, came back, nailed him right in the forehead. Good lesson, huh? So, what the real thing is, when you're dealing with preparedness, when you're talking about preparedness, when you're learning about preparedness, make sure that you are learning the real information, hopefully from somebody who's actually done it. And there's a lot of people who have actually done it. Most of them aren't on YouTube. And most of the people on YouTube haven't actually done it. Okay? But make sure that you're learning from someone who has actually done it. And better than that, do it yourself. See if it works. Get the experience. I've said so many times before, training is fine, but training prepares you to learn from the real teacher, and that is experience. There is no teacher like experience. Training, I've said this before when I used to train young coppers, training and your training officer, or you guys in the military know the same thing, right? When guys come out, they come on into a unit or your team or whatever like that. They are trained up to a certain point, but the other people keep them alive for a while, right? And I used to tell the young guys I came on, I said, okay, you're with me. You do what I say. I'm going to keep you alive until I think you can keep yourself alive. And that's the difference between training and experience. Training means you remember something and you think you understand it. And to an extent, you probably do. But you don't understand it 100% until you experience it. So that's the lesson from who would win between Norris and Lee. It doesn't matter because it didn't happen, and people have their opinions. And make sure that you don't base your preparedness, meaning trust your life, to someone else's opinions who you may not know their background and how well versed they really are. So for those of you who would like to learn more and maybe know a little bit about my background, who is this guy telling us this stuff for all you new people? Well, I am the guy that wrote the Stonemont Series. And if you haven't read them, I'd suggest they be the next thing you do in your preparedness journey. It will change the way, the whole series will change the way you view preparedness. It'll change the way you prepare. Well, I'll just leave it right there because that's what people have said. I have had people who have been in preparedness for 20 years say when they read these books, it changed the way they looked at things and the way they prepared. It's the reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, their blessings of freedom, hostages to fortune. The latest one, On Wings Like Eagles. And it's the story of a prepared family. And I take all these things from my experience. Now, I've never experienced a global killing CME, and that's what these are about. but I have had experience in most of the other things that I write about in here. I've never had a personal experience with cannibals. Okay. But I have with human trafficking and great violence and all these other things. It's a story of a family, a prepared family, who as a result of their preparedness was able to not only continue to live well after the complete collapse of everything, but help other people. And as a result of that, create community and start rebuilding a world worth living in. You will learn so much from these, but you'll love the stories so much that you won't realize you're learning. And I don't make that claim lightly. I've had people tell me that. They say, and there are people who have read through the whole series 5 times and say, I every time I read it through, I catch things I didn't catch the times before because they were caught up in the story. And so if you haven't, I'd suggest these be the next thing you do, not just for pleasure, but in your preparedness journey. There's a couple ways you can get them. You can always get them through Amazon. That link is down below, and through Amazon. They're available in paperback, Kindle, or Audible. Or you can get them a better way, even a better way, and that's directly from me through our website, stonemont.us. And if you do it that way, it takes a little bit longer, I'll be honest. Amazon gets them to you pretty quick. But if you want them signed by me, and I love doing that. I love autographing the books and writing a little note in there to you. And then I get to see the name of the person. And you know what? I still hand address all of the envelopes that I write, because I like that, because it makes me feel that I have a personal relationship with a person who has ordered my books, and I love that. So I sign them, I write a little note in there to you, and then I personally address all of the envelopes that they go out in, or the boxes that they go out in, and I love that. So, and when you order them from me, you can order the whole set as a set. You can't do that through Amazon, and we give you a discount because we save money on the packaging and handling and shipping and everything like that, and we pass that on to you. And we also throw in the free Stonemont notebook, a great place to keep your list and your thoughts and everything like that, your preparedness plans, all of that. That's a great thing to have. I use mine all the time, and so you can get those from me. Now, I do have to warn you, you don't get them as fast from me because we're always selling out, no matter how. I had somebody, I said this yesterday, and somebody said, have you considered AI to help you with your ordering? And I get, well, it's really not that complicated, but the thing is that we have just been so snowed. They sell so fast. I think I'm ordering enough each time to catch up and be ready for the next load. But then so many more orders come in that now I've run out again and have to order more. But the thing is, I'm just telling you, you won't get them as fast from me. You'll get them, but it'll take a couple of 3 weeks probably. Okay, and it says, I think on the order form, You get them 5 to 7 business days or something. No, not right now. It'll take it'll take a couple 3 weeks. So if you can be patient and you'd like them directly from me, I love you to order them straight from me because it just gives me a more personal feeling with you. Okay, so that's the way it is. Remember, hypotheticals might be fun to deal with. Might be fun to back and forth and argue. Oh yeah, well this, I think this and I think that. Well, I don't know. I think this. Fun. But I tell you, it's no way to prepare for something as important as your survival and the survival of those who depend on you, okay? So let that be a lesson. Learning's great, training's great, experience is the real teacher. Okay? All right. Hey, you all have a great day. These mugs will be up for sale as soon as I'm happy with the gold color, which I'm not quite. I want it a little bit darker, so we'll see what happens with that. But the message is still there, and that is something you all remember. We prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. So get out there and do something. I'm working in the back today, working in the garden and stuff like that. I'm sure you all have something to do too. Okay. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.